The stars stretched endlessly before the small exploration ship as it drifted through the quiet reaches of space. Among the crew sat Ryan, a young man who had joined this mission with dreams of discovery. Unlike the others, who had been hardened by years of travel and research, Ryan's heart was filled with curiosity more than fear. He loved looking at the shining stars through the viewport, imagining what secrets might hide among them. The ship had been traveling for weeks without finding anything unusual. Most of the planets they scanned were barren rocks, lifeless spheres with nothing but dust and silence. The crew had begun to lose interest. But on this day, something different appeared on their radar. "Captain," said Myra, the navigator, her voice uneasy, "there is a signal. It is faint, but it is not natural." The captain, a steady man named Dorn, frowned as he leaned over the control screens. The signal came from a planet that was not even on their official maps. It was hidden deep inside a dark nebula where most scanners failed. Ryan leaned closer. The signal was strange. It pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Something about it made the hair on his arms rise. He did not know why, but it felt familiar, as if it was calling directly to him. The captain hesitated. "This area is off the usual routes. Many old charts warn about gravitational storms around here. But if that signal is real, it may lead to a discovery worth recording." The crew discussed it. Some wanted to turn back. Others wanted to explore. In the end, curiosity won. The ship turned its path and entered the nebula. As they flew deeper, the light of the stars grew dim, swallowed by thick cosmic dust. The air on the ship seemed heavier, though Ryan knew it was only his mind playing tricks. Soon the hidden planet came into view. It was covered in grey clouds, with broken land masses visible through the swirling storms. Lightning flashed across its surface, giving it a fierce and lonely appearance. The signal grew stronger. It was no longer a faint sound but a clear repeating tone. Myra whispered, "It feels like it wants us to land." The captain ordered a descent. Engines roared as the ship pushed through the storm clouds. The view outside became wild and violent, winds shaking the hull. Yet the signal guided them, almost like a beacon. Finally, they broke through the storm and saw the surface. The land below was unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. Wide plains of black stone stretched into the distance, cracked and dry like old scars. Strange towers of rock stood in patterns too perfect to be natural. And in the middle of this lifeless land stood something even more shocking. A palace. It rose high into the storm, built from dark stone that reflected the lightning. Towers and arches stood strong as if untouched by time. It looked ancient, but not broken. No plant life grew around it, no animals roamed the plains, yet the palace stood proud, waiting for visitors. The crew gasped. "Impossible," one whispered. "How could this still stand after so many ages?" The captain landed the ship near the palace gates. The ground shook lightly, and dust rose as the landing legs touched the stone surface. Everyone prepared to explore, but Ryan felt something deeper. His heart raced as if he had been here before. His mind said it was impossible, yet every step toward the gates felt strangely familiar. The palace doors were tall and carved with strange symbols. The metal had not rusted, and the stone had not crumbled. With effort, the crew pushed the doors open. A deep sound echoed as the entrance revealed a wide hall inside. The air was heavy but breathable. Strange torches burned with pale blue fire, though no one touched them. The hall stretched into darkness, decorated with long banners that moved as if touched by unseen wind. Ryan walked at the center of the group, his eyes fixed forward. His crew whispered nervously, but he barely heard them. Every sound in this place seemed to whisper to him. Every wall, every shadow, felt like it was alive. At the far end of the hall stood a throne made of black crystal. It shone under the light of the torches, cold and silent. For a moment, the crew thought it was empty. But then, something shifted. A figure sat there, motionless at first. Pale skin glowed softly against the dark crystal. Eyes closed, as if in deep sleep. Long dark robes covered the figure's body. The crew froze in fear. Some reached for their weapons. Ryan, however, could not move. His breath caught in his chest. The figure's presence filled the entire hall, even without motion. It was not dead. It was not gone. It was only waiting. Then, slowly, the figure's eyes opened. They were deep crimson, glowing faintly, sharp as blades. The hall seemed to darken as those eyes looked around. Finally, they stopped on Ryan. For a long moment, silence filled the room. The crew dared not breathe. The figure stood, tall and graceful, moving like a shadow come to life. She stepped down from the throne and walked slowly toward them. Her eyes never left Ryan's face. When she stopped only a few steps away, her lips parted. Her voice was soft but powerful, echoing through the great hall like music and thunder together. "I know you, human." Ryan's heart raced. He could not understand. He had never seen her before, yet her voice struck something deep inside him. The crew looked at him in shock. Why did she speak only to him? The figure straightened. Her expression was calm, yet her eyes burned with something that felt like memory, or perhaps destiny. The hall seemed smaller, as if the entire palace bent toward this single moment. Ryan tried to speak, but no words came. All he could do was stare back into those eyes, feeling the weight of ages pressing down on him. Whoever she was, she knew something about him that even he did not understand. The crew stepped back nervously, but Ryan could not move. For the first time in his life, he felt that his journey had truly begun. Ryan felt his legs tremble as he stood before the alien figure. Her eyes were still fixed on him, unblinking and intense. Every instinct in him screamed to run, yet something deep inside urged him forward. The other crew members whispered among themselves, their voices shaky, but Ryan could barely hear them. His focus remained on her. The figure raised a delicate hand and gestured toward the vast hall behind her. "Follow me," she said, her voice calm and commanding. Though it was soft, every word carried weight. It was not a suggestion, it was a direction. Ryan took a step, then another. The crew exchanged uncertain glances, but one by one, they began to follow him. The palace was enormous. The ceilings arched high above, supported by black pillars carved with symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. Dust floated in the air, but it did not seem old. The place felt alive, as if it had been waiting for someone to return. "This place," Myra whispered, her eyes wide, "it should not exist. It is not on any record." The captain nodded but said nothing. He held his communicator tightly, ready to call for help if needed. Yet even he could not deny the strange sense of presence that filled the palace. The queen walked ahead with slow, deliberate steps. Her robes brushed against the polished floor, and each movement seemed precise and intentional. The hall stretched for hundreds of meters, yet her presence made it feel intimate. Ryan noticed that the farther they went, the more he felt as if the palace itself was observing him. At last, they reached a central chamber. It was circular, surrounded by tall windows that glowed faintly with light from outside. The walls were lined with shelves filled with strange artifacts, crystals that pulsed faintly, intricate sculptures of creatures Ryan had never seen, and devices that looked both mechanical and alive. The queen stopped in the center of the chamber and turned to face him. "This palace has stood for thousands of years," she said. "It has seen empires rise and fall. And it has waited for you, human." Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. "Why me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She studied him carefully. "Long ago, humans touched this place. One among them changed the fate of my kind. I have felt your presence for a long time, though I did not know you existed. Yet you carry the same spirit. You have the courage to face what others cannot." The crew murmured nervously. Some stepped closer to Ryan as if to protect him. Others kept their weapons ready. But the queen did not move toward them. Her attention remained solely on Ryan. He swallowed hard, trying to make sense of her words. I do not understand. I am just an explorer. I am not special." She smiled faintly, a hint of sadness in her expression. "Specialness is not what makes one important. It is choice. And your choices will decide what happens next. Come, walk with me." Ryan followed her deeper into the palace. They passed hallways that twisted in ways that seemed impossible. Some doors opened into rooms filled with water that reflected the stars above. Others led to empty chambers where the air hummed with energy. It was a place that defied logic, yet it felt natural somehow. Eventually, they reached a large atrium. Sunlight filtered in through the glass ceiling, but it was pale and cold. In the center of the room was a shallow pool. The water was clear, yet it reflected images not present in the room, images of distant planets, of civilizations long gone, and of humans who had lived before Ryan. Ryan stared into the water. His reflection seemed to shift, showing not only himself but echoes of the past. He saw a human standing before the queen long ago, a figure whose presence was strong and fearless. The queen spoke softly. "The humans who came here before shaped my world. Their courage and determination stopped what we once were capable of. That is why I watch, waiting for the next one who can carry their spirit." Ryan's heart raced. He felt the weight of history pressing on him. It was not just a palace or a queen. It was a living memory, and somehow, he was a part of it. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the corner of the atrium. One of the crew shouted, "Something is here." The queen's eyes narrowed, but she did not speak harshly. She raised a hand, and the shadow froze. Then, slowly, it retreated into the darkness. "Do not fear what lurks here," she said. "This palace protects itself. Only those with courage can walk its halls without harm. You, human, have been recognized as one who belongs, at least for now." Ryan looked around. The crew seemed both awed and terrified. They had entered a place that was alive in ways they could not comprehend. Every step they took seemed to be observed, measured, and weighed. The queen guided them to another room, smaller and more intimate. It was a study, filled with books and tablets that glowed faintly. Strange symbols ran across the walls. The air smelled faintly of something sweet and metallic. She turned to Ryan once more. "You will need to understand this place if you are to survive what is coming. My kind will return, and when they do, only one with a human spirit can stand against them." Ryan swallowed hard. "Your kind? Who are you exactly?" "I am the last of my line," she said simply. "I am the queen. And I have waited a long time for the one who could stand with me." The words hung in the air. Ryan felt the weight of destiny pressing upon him. He was no longer just an explorer. He was part of a story that had begun long before him and would continue long after. For a moment, he felt fear. But then, deep inside, he felt something else: resolve. He did not fully understand what was coming, but he knew one thing. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them. The Queen nodded, as if she could see his thoughts. Good. Rest now. The palace will reveal more when you are ready. But remember, human, you are being watched. And soon, you will be tested. Ryan looked around the chamber once more. The palace was vast, alive, and filled with secrets. The Queen was unlike anyone he had ever met. And he realized that nothing in his life had prepared him for what was about to begin. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. This was only the beginning of a journey that would take him beyond the stars, into dangers he could not yet imagine, and into a destiny that was his alone to face. Ryan could not sleep. Even though the Queen had allowed the crew to rest, his mind raced with questions. The palace was silent now, yet it felt alive. Shadows seemed to shift on their own, and the walls pulsed faintly, as if breathing. He tried to tell himself it was only his imagination, but deep down, he knew it was not. The other crew members were asleep in their quarters, exhausted from the long day. Ryan left his room quietly, feeling drawn to the central chamber where the Queen had first spoken to him. He did not know why he went there, only that something inside told him he had to understand her words. As he entered the chamber, he saw her waiting. She had not moved from the throne, yet she looked toward him as though she had been expecting him. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and Ryan felt that familiar pull, the same feeling he had when he first saw her. "You came," she said softly. I could not sleep," Ryan admitted. "I keep thinking about what you said. About knowing me. I do not understand." The Queen rose slowly, her movements elegant and deliberate. "You are not like the others, Ryan. Even among humans, your spirit carries a memory that is older than you can imagine. I have waited centuries for one such as you." Ryan's brow furrowed. "A memory? But I have never been here before. I have never met you before. How can you know me?" She gestured for him to follow. They walked through the palace corridors, passing rooms filled with artifacts and objects from civilizations long lost. Some seemed to float, defying gravity. Others glowed with soft light, as if alive. "Long ago, humans came to my world," she began. "Your ancestors were explorers, wanderers among the stars. One human in particular challenged my kind, and because of that challenge, my people's empire fell. The courage of that human echoed through time." Ryan listened, feeling both awe and confusion. "You mean, my family?" "Not your family by blood," she replied, "but your essence carries the same spirit. The same curiosity, courage, and resolve that made your ancestor extraordinary. That is why I know you, human. Your presence here is no accident. The palace recognized you the moment you arrived." Ryan took a step back. The weight of her words pressed on him. He had always thought of humans as explorers, but never as beings capable of influencing civilizations in such profound ways. And now, he felt a responsibility he did not understand. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Why now?" "The time has come for the memory to act again," she said. "My kind who remain in the shadows are returning. They seek to reclaim what was lost. Only one with human spirit can stand against them. That is why you are here. That is why you were chosen." Ryan's heart pounded. He had joined this mission seeking adventure, but now the stakes were far beyond anything he had imagined. It was not just exploration. It was destiny. The Queen led him into a smaller chamber. In the center stood a circular pedestal with a crystal resting on it. The crystal pulsed with soft light, as if it had a heartbeat. "This crystal contains knowledge," she explained. "It holds visions of the past, the time when your ancestors came here. You must look, if you wish to understand what you carry within you." Ryan approached cautiously. The crystal's light reflected in his eyes, and he felt a warmth spread through his chest. Tentatively, he reached out and touched it. Suddenly, visions filled his mind. He saw humans landing on this world centuries ago. He saw them walking the palace halls, confronting beings of shadow and light. One human, a figure strong and fearless, faced the queen herself. That human did not fight with weapons, but with courage and intelligence, challenging the alien empire and forcing it to retreat. Ryan stumbled back, overwhelmed. I saw, me? No, it is someone else. It cannot be me." The queen's eyes softened. "It is not you, yet it is the same spirit. That spirit lives on in every human who dares to reach beyond the stars. You are its echo, its continuation. That is why I know you, human. You carry what they carried long ago." Ryan's mind struggled to comprehend. He had never imagined that his own species had played such a role in the universe. And now, he realized that he was part of something much larger than exploration or discovery. The queen watched him carefully. "Do not fear this truth, Ryan. It is not a burden. It is a gift. You have the courage to face what others cannot. But you must be ready. The trials will come soon, and you will need all your strength, all your intelligence, and all your courage." Ryan nodded slowly. I will do my best. But I do not know if I am ready." "You will learn," she said calmly. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act despite it. That is what your ancestor taught my kind. And that is what I see in you." Ryan looked into her eyes. They were not threatening, but filled with knowledge and history. She had seen centuries, perhaps millennia, and yet she now placed her trust in him. He felt both humbled and strengthened. The queen led him back toward the central chamber. "Rest now, human. Tomorrow, I will show you the ways of this palace, the secrets that your ancestors once discovered. You must understand them if you are to stand against what is coming." Ryan followed, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He could not ignore it. The palace had chosen him, and the queen had recognized his spirit. As he returned to his quarters, he glanced back at the throne room. The queen sat silently, her eyes fixed on him even as he moved away. He felt a strange connection, a bond he could not explain. It was as if she could see into his very soul, and he could sense the truth of her words. For the first time, Ryan realized that this mission was not just about exploration. It was about destiny. The humans of the past had shaped this world, and now he was called to continue their legacy. He lay down to rest, but sleep did not come easily. His mind replayed the visions, the words of the queen, and the weight of what lay ahead. Yet beneath the fear and uncertainty, a spark of determination grew. He would face whatever trials came. He would honor the spirit of those who came before. The next morning, the palace was quiet. Ryan walked through the halls, still feeling the echoes of the visions he had seen. The artifacts, the glowing symbols, and the strange energy of the palace made him feel both awe and unease. He knew the queen had been right, there was more here than any human had ever experienced. The queen appeared at the entrance of the hall before him, as if she had been waiting. Her red eyes looked calm but sharp. "Ryan," she said, "today you will understand why your presence here matters. Today, I will show you what is coming." Ryan followed her into a large room, deeper than any part of the palace he had seen. The walls were made of black stone, engraved with glowing lines that seemed to form constellations of distant worlds. In the center of the room was a table, or rather a projection of a table. It floated in midair, made of shimmering light. She gestured toward it, and images appeared above the table. They showed ships, moving silently through space. Strange, sleek vessels with dark hulls and glowing red engines. Shadows moved along their surfaces, and creatures could be seen inside. Their eyes were sharp, and their bodies were agile. They were unlike any life form Ryan had ever encountered. "These are my kind," the Queen said, her voice steady but serious. "They remain in the shadows, hidden among the stars. For centuries, they have waited, gathering strength. Now, they are returning. They will reclaim what they believe belongs to them." Ryan stared at the images. The ships moved with precision and power. He could feel the threat in them. "Your kind?" he asked. "Are they dangerous?" The Queen nodded. "They are powerful, intelligent, and relentless. Long ago, humans came and challenged them, and they were forced to retreat. But now, they have returned, stronger than ever. Entire civilizations could fall if they are not stopped." The weight of her words pressed on him. He had thought his mission was only exploration, only discovery. Now he understood that the survival of worlds might depend on him. "Why me?" Ryan asked quietly. "Why do I have to face them? I am just one human." The Queen looked at him closely. "It is not your size, strength, or skill that matters. It is your spirit. Humans have something my kind cannot understand. Courage, determination, and the ability to choose what is right, even in the face of fear. That is why you were chosen. That is why I know you." Ryan swallowed hard. His mind tried to absorb everything. "But how can I fight them? I have no weapons, no training. How can one human stand against so many?" The Queen's eyes softened. "You do not fight alone. I will guide you. I will teach you the ways of this palace, the knowledge that your ancestors once used. The weapon you will wield is not ordinary, it is a tool of strategy and intelligence, meant for one who can understand its purpose. That is you, Ryan." Ryan felt both fear and determination. The task seemed impossible, yet he could not deny the truth in her words. He had been drawn to this place for a reason. He could feel the pull of destiny within him. The Queen turned to the images again. The ships moved closer to a distant planet, one that looked familiar to Ryan. Cities burned in the projections, and shadows moved like storms over the land. "They have already begun," she said. "And if we do not act, they will destroy everything. But there is hope. The weapon you will use, combined with human courage, can stop them. That is why you must learn, why you must understand the palace and its secrets." Ryan looked at her, his heart pounding. "Teach me," he said simply. "I will learn everything I can. I will try to stop them." The Queen nodded. "Good. But know this, there will be trials. You will face tests that will challenge your mind, your body, and your spirit. You may fear failure, and you may doubt yourself. That is natural. But remember this, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite fear." Ryan took a deep breath. He had always believed humans were capable of great things, but he had never imagined being at the center of a challenge like this. Yet the Queen believed in him. And somehow, that belief gave him strength. She gestured for him to follow her deeper into the palace. They entered a long corridor lined with tall mirrors. When Ryan looked into them, he saw not only his reflection but faint images of past humans, explorers, warriors, thinkers who had faced challenges beyond imagination. Their eyes seemed to encourage him, reminding him that he carried their spirit. "These are the echoes of your kind," the Queen said softly. "They remind us that humans are not ordinary. They adapt, they endure, and they inspire. That is why your presence here matters. That is why you must stand." Ryan nodded, feeling a mix of fear and determination. He was no longer just an explorer, he was a participant in a story that stretched across centuries. The palace, the Queen, and the visions all told him that his journey had a purpose greater than he could have imagined. They reached a chamber filled with instruments and glowing devices. "Here, you will begin your training," the Queen explained. "You will learn to use the tools left by humans who came before. These tools will help you face what is coming. Study them well, for time is short and the threat grows stronger every day." Ryan approached the devices, feeling both awe and anticipation. He could see that each tool was designed for intelligence, strategy, and skill, not brute strength. That suited him. He was not a warrior, but he could think, plan, and act. The Queen watched silently as he examined the first device. "You will need patience," she said. "Rushing will lead to mistakes. Observe, learn, and remember. Your success depends on your understanding, not just your courage." Ryan nodded. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him, but also a growing determination. He would not fail. Humans had once changed the fate of this palace and its queen. Now it was his turn to carry their spirit. As the sun outside the palace set, casting long shadows across the halls, Ryan knew that the coming days would test him in ways he had never imagined. The Queen's warning had made one thing clear: the challenge ahead was real, dangerous, and unavoidable. Yet beneath the fear, a spark of resolve burned within him. He would face the threat. He would honor the legacy of those humans who had come before. And he would prove that even one human, guided by courage and wisdom, could stand against the darkest forces in the universe. And somewhere in the palace, the Queen watched, knowing that the human she had chosen was beginning to understand the responsibility and power he carried. The warning had been given, and now preparation would begin. The palace was quiet as Ryan followed the Queen down a narrow corridor. The air seemed heavier here, filled with a strange energy that made his skin tingle. He felt the eyes of the palace upon him, as if it were alive and watching his every move. "You will face your first test today," the Queen said calmly. "It is not a battle of strength, but of mind, spirit, and courage. Only one who is willing to trust their instincts can succeed." Ryan nodded. He was nervous, yet something inside him refused to turn back. The palace had chosen him, and he would not fail. They entered a large chamber, circular and dimly lit. Shadows stretched along the walls, and strange symbols glowed faintly on the floor. In the center of the room stood a platform made of black crystal. The Queen gestured for him to step forward. "Step onto the platform, human. The test will begin." Ryan took a deep breath and stepped forward. The crystal felt cold beneath his feet, yet not unpleasant. As soon as he stood on it, the lights dimmed further, and the air around him shimmered. Suddenly, the walls of the chamber seemed to dissolve. He was no longer in the palace. He stood on a vast plain, the sky above swirling with colors he had never seen. Mountains rose in the distance, and the ground beneath him shifted like liquid. Strange creatures moved in the shadows, their forms constantly changing. Ryan's heart pounded. This was not a dream. It was real, or at least, it felt real. He realized the test was not only in this chamber but in his mind as well. A voice echoed around him. You must face your fears, human. Only by understanding them can you move forward. From the shadows, figures emerged. They were familiar, yet strange. Ryan saw visions of failure, times when he had stumbled in life, moments of doubt, and fears he had tried to ignore. Each figure whispered, taunting him, questioning his courage. Ryan felt fear claw at him. His legs wanted to give way. His mind screamed to run. But he remembered the Queen's words, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite fear. He focused. Step by step, he moved forward. The figures tried to distract him, showing him illusions of danger. Some walls seemed to close in. Shadows stretched toward him like reaching hands. Yet he kept walking, trusting his instincts. He noticed that the ground responded to his confidence. When he moved with certainty, the shadows retreated slightly. When he hesitated, they pressed closer. Finally, he reached a river that glowed faintly under the strange sky. The water seemed impossible to cross. It moved too quickly, forming waves that reflected his deepest doubts. Ryan hesitated, but he remembered the Queen's voice, act despite fear. He stepped into the water. It was cold, but he kept moving. Each step required focus, each movement a test of his courage and determination. The shadows tried to pull him under, whispering that he would fail, that he was not enough. But Ryan pressed on. He thought of the humans who had come before him, the courage they had shown in this very place. He thought of the Queen, and of the trust she had placed in him. With every step, his resolve strengthened. At last, he reached the other side. The water calmed, the shadows vanished, and the world around him began to fade. The palace returned, the chamber walls solidifying once more. Ryan stood on the black crystal platform, panting but unharmed. The Queen stepped forward, her red eyes glowing softly. You have succeeded, she said. Many fail at the first trial, overwhelmed by fear or doubt. But you did not. You trusted yourself, and that is what makes a human remarkable. Your courage allowed you to succeed where others would fall. Ryan lowered his head, still catching his breath. It was harder than anything I imagined. I felt like I could fail at any moment. That is the point, the Queen replied. The test is not meant to be easy. It is meant to reveal who you truly are. You must learn to act when fear surrounds you, to think when chaos rules, and to stand when all seems lost. That is what will prepare you for what is coming. Ryan nodded, feeling a new sense of purpose. The trial had tested more than his strength. It had tested his mind, his spirit, and his courage. He realized that the palace had more lessons, each one designed to prepare him for the challenge ahead. The Queen led him to another part of the chamber, where objects hovered in midair, glowing with soft light. These are tools and knowledge left by the humans who came before you, she explained. You must learn to use them, not just as weapons, but as instruments of strategy. One human can change the course of events if they act wisely. Ryan examined the devices carefully. Each one seemed to respond to his thoughts. Some were puzzles, others required precise timing or reasoning. He understood that the palace was teaching him to think, to anticipate, and to act under pressure. Hours passed as he worked with the tools, learning their functions and testing his skills. The Queen observed silently, her presence both reassuring and intense. She did not speak, but Ryan could feel her judgment, her approval, and her expectation. Finally, he stepped back, exhausted but determined. He had completed the exercises, faced the illusions, and tested his courage. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The Queen nodded. Today, you have taken the first step. Tomorrow, the trials will become more complex. You will face not only illusions of fear but real challenges that will test your mind and spirit. Each step you take now prepares you for what is coming. Remember, human, you are not alone. But your courage must guide you. Ryan nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. The palace was more than a place of history. It was a living training ground, designed to prepare him for a battle that would require more than strength. It would require wisdom, courage, and trust in himself. As he left the chamber, the palace seemed to hum softly, almost in approval. He knew that he had passed the first test, but that many more lay ahead. His journey had truly begun, and the path would not be easy. Yet for the first time, Ryan felt ready. He had faced his fears, trusted his instincts, and discovered a strength within himself that he had not known existed. The palace had recognized his spirit, and now he was beginning to understand why he had been chosen. The palace was silent that evening, bathed in the pale light of distant stars. Ryan walked through the halls, still feeling the energy of the trials he had faced. His muscles ached, his mind was alert, and his heart beat with a strange combination of fear and determination. He knew the challenges were far from over. The Queen appeared before him, her red eyes calm and steady. She stood at the entrance of a large chamber he had never seen before. The walls shimmered as if made of liquid light, and in the center of the room floated a small pedestal with an ancient device resting on it. "This is where your next lesson begins," she said. Her voice echoed softly through the chamber. "You have faced fear and uncertainty, human, and you have succeeded. But now, you will be tested not by illusions or puzzles, but by a choice. The choice you make will shape the fate of many worlds." Ryan approached the pedestal carefully. The device glowed softly, humming with energy. He could feel its power even before touching it. "What is this?" he asked. "This is a weapon, though not an ordinary one," the Queen explained. "It was created by your ancestors when they first challenged my kind. Its purpose is not destruction, but control of energy, strategy, and balance. Only one with human insight can wield it effectively. With it, you can face my kind when they return." Ryan's mind raced. The trials had tested him, prepared him, but he had never imagined being given something so powerful. He looked at the Queen. "And if I take it? Then you accept the responsibility," she said. "The responsibility to stand against forces far stronger than yourself. To protect not only humans but the many worlds my kind could threaten. The choice is yours, human. You may take it and stand with me, or leave with your crew and return to the stars unaware of what is coming." Ryan felt the weight of her words. He thought of his crew, who had trusted him to lead them safely. He thought of the humans he had seen in the crystal visions, the explorers and fighters who had faced challenges long before him. He thought of the Queen, a being both alien and ancient, whose trust in him was profound. He realized the decision was not about courage alone. It was about purpose, responsibility, and understanding the value of life beyond his own. He began, struggling to find words. "I do not know if I am ready. This is more than anything I have ever faced." "You will never feel fully ready," the Queen said gently. "No one does. That is why courage is necessary. You act not because you are ready, but because it must be done. That is what your kind has always understood. That is why humans have been remembered across centuries." Ryan stepped closer to the device. The energy it radiated was both frightening and fascinating. He could feel the weight of history and destiny pressing upon him. His hand hovered above it. Every instinct in him urged caution, yet every part of his spirit called him forward. The Queen watched silently. Whatever you choose, it will shape the future. The choice is not easy, and it will not be without sacrifice. But it is yours to make. Ryan took a deep breath. He thought of the worlds that could be lost if he failed. He thought of the creatures and people who would suffer if he turned away. And he thought of the human spirit, the courage, determination, and hope that had been passed down for generations. Slowly, he placed his hand on the device. A surge of energy ran through him, filling him with knowledge, awareness, and understanding. The visions he had seen before returned, but clearer this time. He saw battles, strategies, and choices made by humans long ago. He felt their courage and resolve as if it flowed through him. The Queen nodded approvingly. You have chosen wisely. By taking this device, you accept the responsibility to stand and act. You will face dangers, tests, and perhaps fear like you have never known. But you are ready, human. Your spirit is prepared. Ryan felt a mixture of pride and fear. The path ahead was daunting, yet he could not turn back. He had made his choice, and now he would face the consequences. The Queen guided him to a window overlooking the plains outside the palace. The stormy clouds swirled, and in the distance, faint lights flickered as if signaling the arrival of unknown forces. They are coming, she said softly. Soon, my kind will return to reclaim what was lost. You must be prepared to meet them. Ryan nodded, gripping the device tightly. I will be ready, he said, determination in his voice. I will do everything I can to stop them. You must also understand, the Queen continued, that you are not alone. Humans are capable of extraordinary things, and the palace itself will assist you. The knowledge, the tools, and the lessons left behind are all yours to use. But your courage and choice will guide their power. Ryan felt the palace respond as if it were acknowledging his commitment. The walls shimmered, and the energy of the room pulsed around him. It was as if the palace itself recognized his decision and accepted him as one who could carry the legacy of humans before him. The Queen placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Rest now, human. You have chosen to stand, and that choice marks the beginning of a journey that will test everything you know. Tomorrow, you will begin preparation to face the returning forces. Study, train, and understand, for the moment of action will come sooner than you think. Ryan nodded. He felt both the weight and the strength of the choice he had made. He knew the path ahead would not be easy, but he also knew he had chosen it with his heart and mind. There was no turning back. As he lay down in his quarters, the glow of the palace around him, he reflected on the day's events. He had been tested, shown visions of the past, and faced the decision that would define his role in the coming struggle. The fear still lingered, but it was now joined by a quiet determination. He realized that courage was not about being fearless. It was about standing firm when fear was present. And in that understanding, Ryan felt ready for the challenges to come. Outside, the palace stood tall and silent. The Queen watched from her chamber, knowing that the human she had recognized had made the choice that would shape the future. The trials were not over, and the returning forces would soon arrive. But for now, one human had accepted his destiny, and the first step toward survival and triumph had been taken. The sky above the palace was dark, filled with the faint glow of distant stars. Ryan stood on the terrace, gripping the ancient device tightly. The wind swept across the black stone, carrying a sense of anticipation. He could feel it in his bones, the presence of forces returning, moving closer with each passing moment. The Queen joined him silently. Her red eyes glowed softly in the night, and she did not speak at first. She merely observed him, as if measuring the strength of his resolve. Ryan turned to her, feeling a mixture of respect, trust, and determination. "I am ready," he said firmly. "Whatever comes, I will face it. I will not fail." The Queen nodded. "You have chosen your path wisely, human. Few can act with such certainty when faced with the unknown. Your courage is remarkable, and it is what will make the difference. But remember, you are not alone. Together, we can stand against them." Ryan felt a strange comfort in her words. The Queen, an alien who had once ruled worlds, was offering him an alliance. She trusted him, and now he trusted her. In that trust, he found strength. The palace walls began to shimmer, and the devices within hummed with energy. It was as if the palace itself acknowledged the choice he had made and prepared for the coming battle. Ryan moved among the tools, examining them carefully. Each one was designed not for destruction alone, but for strategy, precision, and intelligence. They responded to his touch, his thoughts, and his decisions. Hours passed as he trained and studied, guided by the Queen. She showed him the secrets of the palace, the hidden passages, and the ways to control the energy of the ancient devices. Ryan absorbed everything he could, realizing that his mind was as important as his courage. Each lesson built upon the last, preparing him for the moment when he would face the returning forces. As night fell fully, the Queen and Ryan stood together at the highest tower of the palace. In the distance, a faint red glow appeared at the horizon, moving steadily across the plains. The returning ships were approaching. "They are coming," the Queen said softly. "And soon, the balance will be tested. You must act wisely, human. Your decisions will decide the outcome." Ryan nodded. He felt fear, yes, but it was joined by determination. He had trained, learned, and faced his first trials. Now it was time to put all that preparation into action. The ships drew closer, their shapes becoming clear. They were sleek, dark, and powerful. Shadows moved within them, and their presence radiated intelligence and menace. Ryan knew that these were not ordinary enemies. They were his kind's ancient adversaries, returning with a purpose that threatened countless worlds. The Queen turned to him. "We will face them together. Your courage, combined with the wisdom of the palace, gives us an advantage. You will lead, and I will follow. Trust yourself, trust the palace, and trust the human spirit that guides you." Ryan felt the weight of her words. He had trained for this moment, yet the reality of it was overwhelming. The ships moved closer, their engines glowing with red light, cutting through the dark plains like rivers of fire. He placed his hand on the device. Energy surged through him, connecting him to the palace and its knowledge. He could see the movements of the ships, predict their paths, and understand the patterns of their forces. It was not power alone, but understanding and strategy that would guide him. The Queen stepped beside him, her presence steadying him. "They will test you, human. Their intelligence is great, their speed is unmatched, but they cannot match the spirit of one who chooses to stand for what is right. That is your strength." Ryan took a deep breath, feeling the flow of energy from the device into his mind. He felt connected to the palace, to the Queen, and to the legacy of humans who had faced challenges before him. Each choice he made now would shape the battle, and every decision required focus, courage, and understanding. As the first ships entered the plains below, Ryan acted. He directed the energy of the palace, guiding barriers, openings, and pathways to control the enemy's movement. The ships moved with precision, yet they were met with obstacles they could not understand. Ryan's strategies slowed them, misdirected them, and forced them into positions of vulnerability. The Queen moved beside him, her own abilities complementing his strategies. Together, human and alien worked in harmony, an alliance formed not by nature, but by choice, trust, and necessity. Ryan marveled at the balance between them, feeling the unity of purpose that made them strong. Hours passed in tense engagement. The ships were powerful, but they could not overcome the combined effort of human courage and the wisdom of the palace. Ryan remained calm, focused on the patterns, predicting movements, and adjusting strategies. Every decision mattered. Every moment was critical. Finally, the enemy ships faltered. Their formations broke, and their energy weakened as Ryan's strategy guided the palace's defenses. One by one, the ships retreated, their red glow fading into the distance. The plains fell silent once more. Ryan sank to his knees, exhausted but victorious. The Queen stood beside him, her eyes reflecting approval and relief. "You have done well, human," she said. "Few could have succeeded. You have proven that the courage, intelligence, and determination of one human can tip the balance against forces far greater than themselves." Ryan looked out over the plains, seeing the remnants of the returning forces disappearing. He felt both relief and pride. The trial was over, but he knew more challenges would come. The alliance they had formed today would endure, and the lessons he had learned would guide him in the battles ahead. The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder. "Rest now, human. The first victory has been won, but the war is far from over. Remember what you have learned and the strength you have found within yourself. Together, we can face whatever comes." Ryan nodded. He had faced fear, made choices, and learned the true power of courage. He had stood with the Queen, forming an alliance that defied the natural order, and together, they had triumphed. As he looked at the stars above, Ryan realized that humanity's spirit was not limited to Earth or to ordinary battles. It was a force that could challenge the unknown, shape destiny, and protect the universe from threats that even the most powerful beings feared. The palace hummed softly around him, a sign of approval and strength. The Queen watched from her chamber, knowing that the human she had recognized had fulfilled his first role. The trials, lessons, and choices had forged a true ally, one who could face the darkness and protect the light.